everybody, welcome back. You're watching The Interviews. I'm Dan Hansen, and today on this episode, I'm joined by a coworker of mine. Chad Danforth is an outside sales rep for Repcolite, but before he did this, before he jumped into this job about a year and a half ago, he spent a good chunk of his life working as a painting contractor. So we're going to dig into his journey, how he went from a bowling lane attendant to a painting contractor to running his own business to working for Repcolite. And along the way, we'll talk about all the karaoke that he does, the competitive bowling, and a horror story that's going to make you cringe, from the job site, a job site horror story. If you ever messed something up on the job site, we're going to make you feel better after Chad tells you what he did. Now, before we jump in, if you enjoy this kind of content, please make sure you like the video, give it the thumbs up, and then subscribe to the channel, and then ring that little notification bell, and then you'll be notified, of course, whenever new videos like this one drop. And if you have any comments, questions, thoughts, anything like that, I'd love to hear them. Just drop them in the comments below. All right, with that said, let's get to my interview with Chad Danforth.
All right, so I guess what I want to start with is just, have you ever spilled, paint? Worst possible place. Anything come to mind? I've got a couple.
I have been really fortunate. I painted professionally for about 10 years. I had a few small paint spills. I did have one incident, like a piece of furniture fall down, but that didn't spill any paint.
Okay. A piece of furniture fell down.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
So this is actually, I've got a little PTSD from this because it was so catastrophic, but I was painting a personal friend's living room, and this friend was in business overseas sometimes, and collected glass bowls, custom glass bowls from every country that he visited. And he would decorate these, he would decorate his armoire, or like his desk, his personal computer desk, with all these different bowls from all these different countries. And so I said, okay, Michael, let's just slide this out from the wall. My team and I are going to be extra careful. And, I think that you don't have to move all this stuff. We just need to get in there so we can paint the ceiling. And long story short is, I had an employee at the time who tripped on the power cord. It had a power cord with a light source. And when he tripped, he went to grab like this. And it was one of the ones where like a hutch had to be fastened to, the top to the bottom. Yeah. And those were just missing. And so when he grabbed, the whole thing came down, all this glass bowls that he's collected for an entire lifetime hit the floor. One of them was full of whiskey and proceeded to hit all of his electronics. And right then the homeowner came home, and I'm just left flailing.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like yelling, it fell on top of my employee. So first and foremost was his safety. And then,
no, come on. Really? First and foremost was, what's wrong with you?
I know. It was a lot of emotions all at once. And I was not okay. I really had a hard time with that. This poor fella.
How did the guy do with that? Your customer?
My customer, she rounded us up. We got it cleaned up. I was just wrapping up the project, doing a punch list. And she goes, you got to get this done because we got to get you out of here before Michael gets home. I'm going to tell him and we're going to handle this, but you need to leave this site because I'm fearful, which of course was not, I understand that.
Well, it's not what you want to hear.
Not what I want to hear. Yeah, that was the worst incident that has ever happened.
I mean, I can't really think of a worse incident. I can, but not in a realistic world.
No, because
that's like crazy world.
Yeah, it was.
Did you ever work again after that?
Not much longer. That was probably about 6 months till the end of my painting career. But I got insurance involved. I placed a call to an insurance, and they had them. My customers try to gather up approximate values of these bowls, but there was nothing. They had no formal receipt on some of these things.
They were priceless.
Yeah, they were priceless.
They were priceless.
And
somebody's dreams, some children's heritage.
all of that.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah, I think the Dalai Lama gave him one or whatever. I mean, it was quite a scene, and I still struggle with that. I feel so terrible.
Well, I've enjoyed it a lot. Just so you know. I mean, you've shared with us. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
No, mine. That makes me feel great.
Yeah.
Because nothing I have ever done even comes close to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the worst thing I've ever done can't even see where you were in that point. I'm so far away from that.
And what do you got?
Well, nothing. I mean, it's just paltry in comparison. I do have, though, maybe this will make you feel better. It's not my favorite story in the sense of I enjoy other people's pain. I don't. I make a lot of mistakes. I like laughing about them. It's fun to me. But I got a contractor at, lunches. We do all these lunches, for Repcolite all the time. And the contractor comes up, and he's somebody I actually went to school with. So I know him from a long time ago. And he's got this story he just loves, he bring it up once or twice. I bring it up because it just blows my mind. Won't give his name out. Insurance had to get involved too. But he's working in this house, this real high-end house, and they've got an exotic fish tank. Just all these fancy saltwater fish. I mean, everything. And he's working on something. He goes up a ladder, and he's got his lacquer thinner. He's, doing something with lacquer thinner on the ladder. The can slips out of his hand, goes straight into the tank. He runs down the ladder. By the time he's pulling it out of the tank, he says the fish are turning over and starting to... He killed the whole tank in just a few minutes.
Unbelievable.
So their life was involved. So that's worse than yours.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's
Now the worst thing no, I'm sure there's plenty of worse things. I've probably blocked them out. That's probably healthy. One of the things that I've done that I remember and think about a lot, I've talked about it on the show just as a, don't do this, but like the lid, we'll talk about, you want to avoid paint spill. Always make sure you tap that lid really tight. So I'm working in the store at the Lakewood location and making paint. And you know what it's like trying to match a color. You're constantly back and forth. Unless you're really good.
Right.
At the time, I was not quite there yet, or the customer just, we just had to dial it in. So I'm making multiple adjustments and I get called away. Put the lid on top of it, go away, answer whatever I've got to do. I come back and the lid's on it, but I never pounded the lid on it.
right.
So I flip it over because now I finally got the color. So now I'm going to write the formula on the side, flip it over the counter, and it took my brain way too long to process the fact that I was pouring an entire gallon of paint all over the counter, lid off, everything. And what a mess that was.
Yeah, I'm sure in the paint store they, everything has to be shaken, so you forget a step like that. And
oh yeah, no, we had one where at 17th Street. This was years ago. Where we've got bright aluminum paint, it's super shiny, super metallic, and somebody throws that in the shaker and the lid comes off, and the manager, just your knee-jerk reaction is to open the shaker because you can hear it just spilling in the shaker, and he opens it up and gets completely sprayed.
Yeah, come out of a movie.
We're working at another store, and all of a sudden the phone goes crazy. We pick it up, and it's the other store, laughing hysterically because their manager is running around looking like the Tin Man.
Hilarious.
Completely covered with metallics.
Yeah.
So, what you do, or I guess what you used to do, because, we should say that Chad did all this work as a painter.
Yep.
All of that. And then you transitioned how long ago to Repcolite?
About a year and a half. So mid-August of 23.
All right.
Yep.
So you've got, a lot of experience, a year and a half's experience here, and then all your previous life as a contractor.
That's it.
Let's focus on that a little bit. Painting is a people business. You're constantly working with people, relationships. That's the goal. I want to know the strangest, funniest, most awkward interaction you ever had with a customer besides the one with the whiskey and all the bottles or the glass. That was pretty bad. Anything lighthearted that won't make us cry?
Gosh. Okay, so first customer back from COVID. So we've been in quarantine for roughly, I want to say for me, it was about 6 weeks. And then contractors kind of started going back. But even then, I was still a little bit skeptical. I wanted to be safe and that kind of thing. And I used to paint a lot of kitchen cabinets. And so I had a customer call me and says, okay, we'd like to have our kitchen cabinets painting. You know, this is also the time where people are starting to get a real up close personal look at their houses and want to start making updates, you know. So I was busier than ever at that time, but I still was, you know, trying to figure out when was an appropriate time to go back to work. And this customer called me and I was able to provide them with a quote kind of through cell phone pictures and whatever. And they said, okay, we'd like to go for it. You know, can you do it? And I said, well, I can't shut down your kitchen. There's not even any restaurants open right now. You know, you have 2 kids.
Right. Yeah.
You have 2 kids. There's not any restaurants open. I you know, I'd love to, but there's nothing I want to do more than get back to work. I would, you know, and they said, okay, we'll go to Florida. We're going to go. I think at that time, you know, different states had different rules and their in-laws were in Florida. And they said, okay, we're going to go to Florida. You can just have our house empty. I go, okay.
All right.
Perfect. So this particular job, I had to do some custom molding on their kitchen island. They wanted like some added zhuzh to it.
Zhuzh?
Yeah. Some...
My house is completely devoid of zhuzh.
They wanted, you know, like the 1x,
Yeah.
you know, kind of beef out the island with the base and just make it look a little more decorated. So I was doing some carpentry out in the garage, had the table saw and the chop saw, and we're planing on these boards. And at the end of the day, I'm getting cleaned up and I look and I got sawdust all in their driveway. And so I look and I see that this homeowner who I've never met, I briefly talked to the wife on the phone. We've, you know, had some pictures sent back and forth of the job, but I see he's got a backpack leaf blower just sitting there. And I'm okay, dust. And I'm
reign of the house.
Yeah, like I have free reign of the house. Like, you know, and that's kind of how I structure my business. Like we trust each other at this point, you know. So I just fire up the leaf blower and I take care of this dust. And you know, as I'm doing it, I can see there's a camera in the corner of the garage. You know, I'm like, okay, well, maybe they saw that, maybe they didn't. I'm used to just living at this time. You're just living in camera world.
Take a nap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So job goes great, blah, blah, blah. They come walking in the door. You know, I'm finishing up on my last day and the husband comes in. Jeremy was his name, and shake his hand. Hey, Jeremy. And the first thing I say to him, I say, hey, full disclosure, I used your leaf blower to clean up some sawdust. He goes, I know. I saw you on camera. and he just gave me a smirk like, dude, you've been in my house. We're all good. And from that point on, we kind of laughed about that and have since become really, really good friends. They're actually personal friends of mine now. So we do dinner, and his wife and my wife are friends. And
you borrow his leaf blower.
Leaf blower. And so, yeah, when we're hanging out, we'll have a few beers and he always goes, full disclosure, you know?
That's pretty funny.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah.
So karaoke. Let's switch gears.
Oh yeah.
Entirely.
Yeah.
Something you do as a hobby?
Something I do as a hobby. I picked up the guitar when I was in 7th grade. My dad bought me a guitar and just kind of fell in love with making music. I am left-handed. I got a very creative left-handed brain. And
like
so
Paul McCartney.
Yeah. Or Hendrix, you know?
Yeah.
And so I kind of, you know, find some space in my, you know, teen years for making music and just playing in my room for hours and hours and hours. And then, long story short, it kind of developed, you know, post high school. You know, I just ended up working, spent a lot of time painting. And didn't have so much time for music, And later in life, I ended up I became a very social person, like these relationships and friends, and we're hanging by the bonfire. I used to live on the lake. And so I got an acoustic guitar, and that kind of turned into kind of more of a strumming style, less, you know, hard rock and roll. And kind of found my voice through that process. I started singing along, you know, to some of these chord progressions. And my mom was actually pre-COVID. COVID put a kibosh on this too, but was a professional duo singer. So she's got a really good voice, and fortunately I was genetically gifted with that as well. And so, yeah, I just kind of find it and you know, I like to sing and play the guitar, but I have taken more of a fun approach to it. It's not so much about the music. I'm not recording anything. I really don't even practice. I like to hang out with people that are in a good mood and sing and jam.
Wow. So you've played guitar since 7th grade.
Yeah.
The karaoke thing just came about because it's all over the place.
Well, yeah, my wife and I we're also big restaurant people, and so you know you get the restaurant bar scene plus the music scene, and karaoke kind of meets right in the middle. I know it kind of has a bad rap in the musicians world, but I like it.
So what's your go-to song? I mean, do you have a couple?
I do a lot of I definitely like a lot of Garth Brooks and a lot of Alan Jackson and Brooks and Dunn. So that old school 90s country.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have the twang to your voice.
Yes.
You bring that in?
Blame it all on my roots.
All right. Well, see, I do the guitar. I've done that since I don't know how long. 5th grade, 4th grade, high school.
Yeah.
All blurs together.
Yeah.
You get to be a certain age, you can't remember anything. And I started doing, that was exactly what you described, just strumming along and stuff, doing chords. And then a year ago, 2 years ago now, I bought an electric guitar. I've had electric guitars, but I bought this one with the intention of learning scales and learning lead stuff. I'd convinced myself it was impossible. I would never, ever pick that up. And I learned it and had a lot of fun. And I love the whole music thing, making music, writing songs, I love doing that and all of that. But I absolutely stink with the vocal.
Yeah.
And it's killer. I mean, it's such a depressing thing.
Yeah. It's like
God
dieting
put
without
this thing in me that
exercise.
says you will love to do this, but guess what? You won't be able to. But you can sing. That's
Yeah, a little bit. That was probably a bad little rendition I did there. I wasn't prepared. I didn't go through my scales. Yeah.
Oh, you do the
Yeah, right. Tip of the tongue, teeth in the lips.
yeah, all of that. So does your wife sing with you?
She does, yeah.
Does your mom sing with you?
Yep. She will sing. We'll all go out. Yep. Sometimes my mom will just get up there and grab the, a lot of times they have a secondary microphone and she'll start doing harmony, which is fun. So
She cover her ear.
it'll cover her ear harmony. Yep. She was really good. She was a really good singer when they did that. And COVID just kind of shut down the restaurant scene and, things changed a little
karaoke.
bit. Yeah, I know.
That would have stopped.
Yeah, there was a time karaoke was hit. They would use, they had like a microphone COVID cover, switch out with every singer, like a little mask over the mic. Dedication.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right. So you got your start, in paint, working on a crew. Let's go way back.
Okay.
You're working on a crew. That's how you got started. How green were you when you first started?
I was very green. What happened is I was actually, my first job was working at a bowling alley, and one of the league bowlers had a team named Diedrich Painting. And so a lot of times, businesses will name their team names to kind of help market their business. I see Diedrich Painting, and then I was a lane attendant, so I'm kind of up close and personal with a lot of these different guys. I'm picking up their bottles or whatever, and I don't know if you just saw my work ethic.
What does a lane attendant exactly do?
Oh, lane attendant?
Bring them little trays of goodies. You polish the wall if they need that.
A lane attendant really is meant to kind of be watch over some of the competitive leagues. Well, any kind of bowler really, but the competitive leagues, sometimes guys aren't sliding properly. You need to clean the approach for if there's any kind of dust or anything out there. If a lot of times pins will come back out from the machine, and then you got to go take care of that. Or relay messages. A lot of times someone's ball doesn't come back. I got to relay that to the counter. That kind of thing. Didn't come back. Got to go say, hey, ball return, lane 23, that kind of thing.
Manservant.
Like I'm
pretty cool.
Well, yeah,
fancy house.
Manservant.
That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? If you're in charge of everything, making sure their underwear is folded right.
The lane attendant converted into, yeah.
All right, so you're working as a lane.
So I'm working at a lane attendant. Diedrich Painting. He sees my hard work ethic, Dan. He says, wow, that was 20 years old. He says he's really busting his butt. And so he says, hey, I have a painting company. You don't have to know how to paint, but I could really use, a helper. And I thought, okay, I'm open-minded. Let me try it out. And so first day we show up, we had a job in Milford, Michigan, and he just starts having me carry stuff down into this guy's basement. And it's a home I was not used to being in. We're working for upper middle class individuals. This particular house was really nice, square footage wise, larger than something I was normal to. So I was just kind of in awe through the whole process, and just starting to go out to the truck, carry tools in, carry drop cloths in, and then it just started. I mean, this Ron Diedrich is his name. He learned painting from his great grandfather, who taught his father, who taught him, and just kind of in the family. And from that moment on, after the tools got brought down to the basement, he's just started teaching me one step at a time, like a real long haul, kind of mindset. And so I ended up liking it. I got that left-handed creative brain, and so I find that painting is really an opportunity to it's open for interpretation, and I like that. I liked that part initially, and I liked the camaraderie. At that time, it was just myself and Ron, and so we're just kind of there joking. Yeah, just the two of us for years.
And yet he had a bowling team.
He had a bowling team, yeah.
None of these were people that he worked with?
Well, just friends. No, friends. Just friends.
I assumed it was a huge crew.
Well, no, just one-man show, and then I was his helper. And so...
How old was he at that time? I mean, roughly.
38. 39.
Oh, so in the prime of life.
Yeah, prime of life. Yeah. Maybe 40, something like that. And so, yeah, we continued to work together. He just keeps continuing to teach me old school painting. I mean, he was...
Let's talk about that. What are some of the things you picked up? What are old school painting things?
Well, first we kind of started with some basics, how to correctly mask, right? We started masking the floor correctly. And then, he's educating me on why we're doing this, right? We're lipping up some of the tape so that some of the paint doesn't creep through. Starts teaching me that certain tapes do certain things, we get into, why we're sanding the walls. That caught me off guard. Oh, okay, why are we sanding the walls? That kind of thing.
Why are you sanding the walls?
We're sanding the walls, pole sanding. A big part of my early career was spent pole sanding. I was the designated pole sander, and that is to not only clean the walls, but also to knock down what we call boogers. A lot of people have different names for them, but we're making those things smooth.
Not normally the term I use.
Well, what are you calling them? What are you calling them?
Goobies.
On the goobies, yeah.
I reversed the B and the G. I just realized
the B and the G, yeah. You can't do that with the guitar.
Yeah. So you're cleaning off the goobies, the goodies that are left behind.
And we're sanding, and then he starts. Danny's got me. This guy, he starts getting me into the habit of feeling the walls, and he says to me, "A paint job's not a paint job unless it feels good. It can't just look good; it's got to feel good." And I say, "Okay." So it's very zen. He's got a lot of Ron had long hair, kind of hippie style, zen-like guy. And so, yeah, he's got me feeling the walls, got me feeling the trim, and
did you wear a special glove?
No.
So you got to feel it.
Got to feel it. Got to see what's going on. This guy at this time, this was 2005 or 6. He was still using a lot of oil, using flat oil on the ceilings, and satin and pervo on the trim. Actually, Benjamin Moore used to have an old enamel called Dulamel. It was a low luster oil enamel, and that was the first product that I ever learned to paint trim with. Right. I started with oil enameling with old Corona Marquis brush and brushing Dulamel on 6-panel doors.
That name just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yeah, Dulamel. Yep, pastel base eggshell. Yep. So yeah, it was kind of that old school feel. We were working in a lot of upper echelon homes. He had been their painter for years and years. Just kind of a word of mouth type guy. I think he probably inherited some clients from his dad even. And
so his dad did obviously. What an idiotic question. You don't inherit clients from your dad if he didn't do that.
Yep. He was a painter.
He was in it for a long time.
Yep, that's all he ever did.
He'd been doing it way long.
All he ever did, yep. Right. And so and then I did that for 4 or 5 years, and I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I started getting into why products are doing certain things. Really enjoyed the product aspect of it, which obviously would kind of come to play later in life here. But there's a whole section in between there we're missing out on, which is I think when I was 25, I left Ron and said, okay, I think I'm going to start my own business. No hard feelings, and I started a company called Blue Whale Painting. And that
didn't your wife kind of get you off and running on this?
Yeah, around that time, I was still working for Ron. I meet my wife,
but she's not your wife at that point.
She's not my wife at that point.
It's not like you said, honey, we need to talk. And you met your wife at a restaurant. You talk.
No,
you met her like, oh,
yeah, I met her at that time. My wife, actually, we met at one of my mom's singing events. They were having. My wife is friends with one of my cousins, and my cousins was having like a girls' night, and they were out watching my mom sing, and my cousin called me and said, Chad, come up here, say hi. And I was I was fortunate enough to meet Nikki, my wife, that day, and the rest is kind of history. But probably 6 months into dating her, we're boyfriend, girlfriend, things are really connecting. It seems like it's getting pretty serious. She says, hey, you should paint for yourself. I think you're really good at it. You've got a mind that, can be creative, and I think you could be good in front of customers. And I've seen your work, and just kind of gives me that confidence to go out and try this. And at 25, everything's so exciting. That sounds amazing to do that. I like to try new things. So, I said, okay. And so I left Ron, and I started small. I mean, I didn't need to be anything big. I was only making the salary of a painter's assistant at the time. I think it was probably somewhere $18, $20 an hour. So I can make that kind of money on my own, just from word of mouth, right? Mm-hmm. Putting flyers around my neighborhood. And then, so I really took a lot of pride in just working by myself for some time, and I built up a bankroll, and 4 or 5 jobs, you get a piece of equipment. Another 4 or 5 jobs, you get another piece of equipment. And then, I would say after about a year, I kind of took it to the next level and hired somebody and got letters on a truck and in my van, and started to run then like a crew of 2 or 3 and really dive into business ownership as opposed to painting. But of course you kind of have to do both at the same time. And so
do you remember the day you hired the guy that knocked over all the vases?
Oh,
just try to block that out.
Yeah.
PTSD.
When did he was literally my favorite employee. He was the sweetest kid. He was like 20.
Past tense. That's a little concerning.
Well, he went up to Alaska.
But you didn't do anything.
No, he moved to Alaska to be a fishing guide, salmon fishing guide. So
does that have a sad ending? The way you're saying that makes.
Well, I haven't talked to him.
Okay,
he's in Alaska.
But we have no reason to think.
No reason to think. No, I don't think so.
I thought that's where you were going.
No,
I was thinking.
No, I think that job. He left the country.
Open that up now. A new wound. Dragged open.
Oh man.
So blue. What was it?
Blue Whale Painting.
Why that? Why
Blue Whale Painting is because at that time, my first painter van was a big blue Dodge 3500 conversion van with the old TV topper, and it looked just like a big blue whale. And I thought, okay, I'm on limited budget. I've always had that creative brain. I said, how can I kill 2 birds with 1 stone here? If I got to roll around town in this beast, let me at least play into some of my strengths to where I can get some notoriety. And so I called myself Blue Whale Painting. Now that would only end up lasting, maybe 6 months or so until I had to upgrade vehicles, because it really wasn't the best painter vehicle.
No, I can see that.
Yeah.
So I know that somewhere along your journey, as a contractor, you worked on a log cabin restoration for a family that basically, this is probably before you knocked over all those vases and stuff in another home. And like almost adopted you, or you talked about this as an incredible experience.
Well,
Walter's job or something.
Yeah. The Walters job. It actually was one of my last jobs. And the Walters job came to me. It was just a normal phone call that I fielded. Hey, we've got a cottage out here in Holly. We'd like you to come take a look and stop by. And just the architecture of this thing was very unique. I think it was something, one of those ones that had been added on to 4 or 5 different times. But the exterior substrate was vertical log siding, and it hadn't been maintained in years. It was really in some dire need of power washing with some chemicals to clean it up, and then, really see what we got. But I go out and I meet Gwen Walters, and she is just the absolute sweetest lady in the world. And she says, okay, listen, my husband built this house with his bare hands. We've been here, I think, 20 or 30 years now. And unfortunately, he has gotten ill recently, and he's just not able to do this himself. Normally we do everything ourselves, but this has got to be done. It's getting to the point where some of these logs are starting to be rotted. We're starting to kind of have, compromised logs, and water's coming in some areas. So we need to call someone out and get this taken care of. I said, okay, no problem. I totally understand that. And so I know that immediately, I know that this is really important to them. And she just couldn't have treated me nicer, which in this business, that's really important to me. Painting's hard. And so, you have to give all that you can for your services, but it also takes some effort on the homeowners end too. And that was one of those things that, I tried to really pair myself with customers that understood how that dynamic could really help them get the best paint job.
So Chad, you're talking to a lot of people that, could be hiring contractors. You talk about how there's things that we can do, as people hiring a contractor to get a better job. And I don't think a lot of people think about that. I think we think we're hiring somebody and I'm going to make sure that crew does a good job. They've got a good, good reviews. They've got a good rapport. I talk to them and okay, they'll listen to me. They'll understand, and they've got the skills to do it. You're saying there's something that we can also do, which I think is really good. I think that's good for people to hear about. What can we do as people hiring a contractor to help get the best project?
Absolutely. So I think, the first thing is just preparation of the area. I think that's kind of first and foremost. There would often be times where I'd show up, we'd plan to do someone's kitchen cabinets or their foyer or whatever it is, and I show up, and I think, upon initial quoting, I say, okay, we'll take care of the big stuff. I have a crew. We're going to move your furniture. We're going to cover that up. But I need you, I think the term that I used to use was knickknacks, right? I need you to take care of all these little knickknacks before we get here. And so that, that's first thing. We have a large project, and some people have a lot of knickknacks.
I think there's a lot of people that heard the beginning of this and all those vases going over that are thinking,
hey,
what are you saying? It makes sense. Maybe remove those knickknacks.
Yeah, that one was maybe my fault. Now I'm contradicting myself, but
no, you learn. That's the thing.
That's it.
That was a horrible experience.
Yes.
So now I've got information to convey to other people to save them from that.
Yes.
That's how I do it.
So you got to take down the knickknacks. And then, we've got to come to some kind of agreement with how the space that we're working in is going to be used for the duration that we are in there. If it's a, kitchen, obviously people use that on a daily basis. Like, I think expectation setting is big upon that initial quote. Hey, you may have access to this for a couple days, but then it's off limits. And then, and of course, I've come into jobs where plastic is just ripped down, and they got to get to something, and sometimes that's, you're not going to have every win, but no problem. But sometimes, I guess what I'm saying is some homeowners really do a good job of recognizing you as someone that is more than just the help, and they are able to kind of get into your state of mind and understand that they need to make it easy on you too, and everyone wins.
Well, that's the big thing. That's the big takeaway is everybody wins. When you're communicating well, asking questions when you've got them, not stewing on stuff, finding out exactly what's expected so that your family can coexist, because it's, you're in the house for however long that is, depending on the project. You're in their space.
It's much more prevalent of an issue in interior than exterior. Exterior, there's not too much overlap that needs to be done on their end. But
no, my kid though, he worked on a crew this past summer for the first time. He didn't do any painting beforehand, and he's working on an exterior crew. And yeah, it was much easier in that regard. But, oh man, he'd come home not every day, but there probably once a week there was awkward moments where the contractors would they're in condo associations, and so the condo association has alerted all the people there. There's painting crews around, and they're going to be painting the exterior of your homes, doing certain things, getting your deck ready. And every time he'd put his ladder up by a window and he'd have to climb up, he'd think, oh, please,
God.
Oh, please, let this be okay.
Yeah.
And he's got some really funny stories. Like he gets to the top and he, is painting, and then he sees motion, and there's a lady just rocking her chair right by the window, facing the window, looking out.
Yep.
Other times he'll, people are moving around.
I know.
You're thinking, okay,
good luck. We let you know.
But yeah, you got to let people know, have those conversations. That helps, us as we're hiring people. Like you said, you just remember that, you as a contractor, you're a person. To help. And when I work with you and treat you in that manner, we're going to get better results down the road.
I mean, there's been
with this Walters thing.
Exactly. Everything that we could possibly need. They were more than happy to do. So I get the lay of the land over there, and okay, we got to work up a price, and it's a really significant size project. They have an enormous deck on the back of the house that also needs to be done. This thing's in 4 separate, built in 4 separate decades. There's kind of a lot going on with this wood, and so with exterior, the whole thing is longevity. We got to protect this from the elements and really make sure that you get value. So I explain all that to her, and she says, okay, Chad, we really think you're a good choice. Let's rock and roll. So we scheduled it, I think, for the fall, and I brought my crew out there, and we started washing and kind of going through everything. And long story short, we were out there for over a month, which is a long time. And this gal was out there, coffee, lunches, asking my employees, do you like onions? No onions. Okay, you're gluten-free. Let me bake you some gluten-free bread. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We would have a little 5-minute powwow every morning, coffee by the fireplace before we even started. She's getting to learn about my employees and their families, and giving us gift packages on the way home, and just the most selfless person that I have ever met. And so, painting was just a vehicle for that introduction, and we still communicate to this day. Unfortunately, Kevin, her husband, did pass away about a month or so ago. He had brain cancer, and they knew it was coming, but it was still very, very, very sad. I'd go into the wood shop. She said, okay, Kev's got all this wood. He's cut, for that spot 10 years ago. It's been sitting there. It's labeled, or, we need a screw. Oh, Kev's got screws up in the bin in the wood shop. And so I got a glimpse. Kevin wasn't feeling too good towards the end. We did have a chance to kind of talk and meet and everything, but I got a glimpse into just how cool of a guy this guy was, and the life that they had together, and how much work he put into that house. And it was just an honor for me to kind of go and restore it for him.
Wow.
So,
wow, that's very cool. I mean,
yeah.
And I know that you mentioned in other conversations we've had, you had lots of relationships develop like that, or maybe not to that level. That one was a little, lady, like you said, very special. But you're in people's homes. You're getting to know people, and you're not advocating that everybody out there, when they hire a contractor, they need to bake the gluten-free.
No, and really, I mean, I would argue, in some ways, it was part of my, business downfall. You can, when you break that customer contractor barrier, you better know what you're doing, because oftentimes, that's not how business works. It can be left, just A for B, and here we are on our way. That's just my personal, I like to get to know people, and that's my thing. But it's hard in painting because the duration you're on some of these projects is long. And so all of a sudden now you've befriended someone, you're there 3-4 weeks, and now there's an issue, right, that we need to handle professionally. But wait, are we friends? It can get a little bit awkward. Sure. How much is that closet to paint? Is it free, maybe?
You ran into issues like that.
Yeah.
Hard to walk the line.
It is
hard to walk the line. So Bowler, you're.
Oh yeah.
We talked in the beginning about the fact that you were a lane attendant. which was extremely high-end stuff. You know, I mean, with the suit and gloves, all those things, right? Don't wreck my vision of it. But you're also a competitive bowler.
Yes.
You know, when in the world, and I don't mean this bad, but when did bowling become cool again?
Well,
has it always been cool?
Yeah, you've just been missing it, Dan. You're not out there. You got
it.
Sundays are for bowling. You don't know that?
But that's when I nap.
Yeah, obviously I had the job at the bowling alley, and you work at a bowling alley, you're a kid, free bowling, right? You know, enough free bowling. I'm kind of a competitive person.
Everybody laughed at me when I would say in high school, let's go bowling. And then they'd laugh.
Well,
I liked bowling. But it was just peer pressured out of my life. I could have been a professional bowler.
You could have.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
So you're competitive.
Eat enough nachos.
Yeah. Need more nachos. More nachos. So I guess tell me more about that. You're on teams. Do you have like all kinds of superstitions? Are bowlers like baseball players? Baseball players, that I know. We've got lots of superstitions.
Yeah, and really I think a little bit. You'll see bowlers have a little bit of a pre-shot routine. You can see it from the time that they pick up their ball to how they stand, and then they complete their approach and then throw the ball. I've seen guys stand sideways and do 90-degree turn and then take off. I've seen guys, they have a rag. They swipe it 3 times every time, set the rag down, same spot. It's very kind of like a pitcher throwing a pitch. You'll notice that they're in the same routine. Bowling is very much the same way. You like to get repetitive, right? The goal, obviously, shooting 300, you're trying to do the same exact thing 12 times. And so you definitely get into routine. The competitive bowling, I saw it when I worked at that bowling alley, and I saw how cool that it was. And really the cool thing about it is anyone can get pretty good at bowling. Youth bowlers is a huge thing, especially here in Michigan. And then, of course, we have your fun, mixed leagues. Those are going on in the weeknights in the bowling alleys, Tuesday, Wednesday night mixed leagues, and then typically you'll have like a competitive men's league. And then Michigan is known for an incredible amount of bowling tournaments. And this is really where what hooked me is early on. I don't even think I was good yet, but someone invited me to the Michigan State Bowling Tournament. I think it was in Saginaw at the time. Might have been I think my first one was in Kalamazoo. And you go out, you get a hotel, you stay, we're all, it's just a couple living the dream. Yeah. We got nothing to do. Just hanging out with the guys. This is what we've longed for.
Vision.
And so, you go and you bowl and bowling is a lot like golf. I don't know if you're familiar, but there's a handicapped, system. And so everything kind of is prorated for your, an average. So if you average 150 and you were to enter a tournament, they would give you an additional 60 pins on top of every game that you score to kind of level the playing field.
Extra points.
You just start with extra points. I don't know what you were thinking. I
would have races. The other kids would let me get way out in front.
Exactly.
When they started.
Yep.
Okay.
That's it.
So that's cool.
It is cool. It's fun.
It means I'm less than them, though, right? That's why I'm getting extra pins.
Well,
that way they have fun. It's probably all about that. These better bowlers want to have fun.
Yeah.
And if they play me like I am, it's not fun.
Exactly.
It's like beating up
right. Pick on someone your own size.
Right.
Yeah.
So now I start with all these points. I'm at 299.
There you go.
Hit one pin.
There you go.
What's the best you've ever done?
I have a couple 300s. Yep. Couple 300s.
What do you do when you get one?
But the big thing,
this huge celebration. Does everybody sit around you in awe?
Yes. In
they
fact,
kind of touch the sweat coming off of your head because it's like magic sweat.
In fact, last bowling league that I did a couple Tuesdays ago, my teammate shot 300, and I filmed it for him because I knew it was going to be a big moment. He was throwing the ball really well, and I got up on a chair and I filmed it for him, and so. You can see everyone kind of slowly but surely makes their way over. And then again, there's that superstition. So everyone's kind of quiet, right?
Yeah.
And then as soon as the ball is released, kind of like guys hitting a golf shot, once Tiger hits the ball, everyone's loud. Same thing. As soon as that ball's released, everyone's kind of yelling, and then, boom, strike, and just kind of mayhem ensues after that. And everyone kind of comes up to you, and you're kind of the star of the show for the night. So it's really cool. When I shot mine, it was in my last one was in a tournament some years ago. I actually took 5 years off of bowling. When I was in the prime time of owning my business, just didn't have time for it. But early in my mid to late 20s, I shot 300 at a tournament at Airway Lanes in Waterford. It's no longer there, but it was really cool, and everyone just kind of gives you high fives, and that's it.
That is pretty cool. I don't think I've ever participated in anything like that where I've been cheered on. Not without demanding the cheering. The kids are.
I don't know. You do a heck of a job at planning that golf tournament out here, or the golf outing.
I do a good job planning.
There's no cheering for you at the end of that?
No, not really. Not really. No. Let's see here. If there was no need for painters, we don't need painters in the world. Let's just imagine a crazy, horrible world like that. And then, therefore, no need for paint reps. If none of those jobs existed, what in the world would you be doing? What would be the thing you would be doing? Bowling lane attendant?
Yeah, professional bowler.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, right. That's the dream when you're 22 for sure.
It wasn't my dream.
And well,
I didn't have dreams back then.
just trying to
just make this work.
Gosh. If painting didn't exist, it would probably be some kind of other opportunity where I could leverage my creativity and my freedom. I don't like the system. I don't like the man, Dan.
Oh, you're gonna fight the man.
I'm gonna fight the man. Yeah,
rage against
kind of
the
like
machine.
to be out there on my own, doing something.
That's me too.
I would be a business owner of some kind, probably.
I could probably drive a couple businesses straight into the ground. That's my gift. But you don't.
I always kind of want to be a bartender. Own a bar restaurant.
Okay.
Own a bar restaurant.
Own that and then be the bartender.
Yeah.
Do the Tom Cruise thing.
Well, maybe. Yeah, but I kind of want to do it like up north, like in a.
Is there money up there?
Well, on one side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go to that.
Yeah,
side.
go to that side. Yeah. Here's Chad and Charlevoix, the bartender.
All right. All right.
And I'm just hanging out. I think everyone's in such a good mood up north on vacation. The scenery's good.
That is true. That's where we go. And I know when we're there, everybody's happy.
Everyone's happy. I think
we're there.
Maybe even like a ski situation. I like the winter. So,
really?
Yeah.
So you've been loving this then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this winter's been good.
Yeah. Well, glad you like it.
Although I did just have hernia surgery, so I haven't been able to do any skiing or any snowmobiling or anything. So,
well, I have not had hernia surgery, but I just still didn't do any of those things. I'm a complete klutz, and I struggle just walking. The other day we had ice.
Yeah, heard of it. Yeah.
And all, at home, I'm telling the kids, be safe on the roads. The roads are this. And then I get out to my car. Oh, start your car early because there's ice on everything. Be careful. Get to work. Now I know what the roads are like. So in my mind, I'm going to tell them just before you leave, last ditch, step out of my truck. And I've got a huge truck for the size person I am. People laugh at me when they see me get out of it because I've got to hop down. I hop down and I forgot. All these warnings. That it's I hit the ground like a little starfish. My arms out to one side, my legs out to the other. I'm flat on the ground. And my parking lot, you'll have to check it out when you leave. It's got a slow incline towards the road. And I'm just slowly spinning.
That kind of ice. Wow.
Oh, it was sheer. We had the freezing rain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I slid right slowly along, looking at the sky.
Well, that's like skiing.
Yeah. That's why I don't do any of those things. As a rep, as a painter, you had to form, you form relationships with the people that you work with. Of course, we talked about that. But there's also, maybe for lack of a better word, relationships you form with products, whether they're paints or whether they're sundries, from either angle as a rep or, as a painter. What were some of the products that you just found yourself really rep?
Oh, well, what was nice about this conversion from contractor to rep, particularly for a Benjamin Moore store, I wasn't obviously not familiar with Repcolite products. They were, pretty new to that side of town at that time. But I was a Benjamin Moore user, and I centered my business around the Aura line. I had a little bit of a unique system where I actually used Aura Bath and Spa on everything, on your foyer.
So why did you do that?
2 reasons.
Finish?
The finish is slightly lower sheen than the regular Aura matte. And I don't know why. If you from Benjamin Moore, they say, oh, it's almost the exact same stuff with just a little bit of mildewcide added in. But when you dry them down, the Aura Bath and Spa absolutely is a little bit lower sheen. And that's a nice little hack for, some of those 20-foot walls and also for touch-ups. You can absolutely touch up Aura Bath and Spa on almost all bases and have pretty good success with it, particularly if you use the same cover, or in the same week, that kind of thing. But it also is really nice off the brush. It's a little bit looser than the regular Aura. Yeah.
All right.
There is a little bit of a consistency difference. I used to use the Corona Excalibur brush for that product. I'd pair those together, and man, you can really get a good 24-inch brush stroke at the ceiling line with that combo, and you're still getting really good coverage, and it just rolls off really good. So
do you mix? I mean, did you mix brushes with products?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you have different brushes.
Absolutely, different brushes for different products. I got pretty into really honing in some of the details with tapes and brushes for products. Now, not all the time. You could probably drive yourself crazy trying to find that. And I think I narrowed my brush selection down to 3. Right, we have a trim brush. It's typically pretty soft. For trim with the Advance, it's not hard to make that look too good.
Benjamin Moore's Advance.
Yeah, Benjamin Moore's Advanced line. Yep.
Just self levels beautiful.
Yeah, and so
soft bristle brush for
soft bristle brush. You could. Yeah, I typically like something firmer from my wall paints, and then a soft bristle brush for trim, and then of course those upon the tail end of their life would get recycled into like ceiling paint brushes, or a duster brush.
Yeah. I
wasn't big on duster brush. That guy Ron I was talking about way back, he said we don't just push dust around, we remove the dust with a vacuum. And I said, okay, that's a pretty decent theory.
Yeah. Rather than
we're just moving the dust around. That's not pretty good for job site cleanliness.
Those old brushes though, they can be really nice for dusting off electronics, things like that.
Oh yeah.
One for all the studio equipment that I've got here. Doesn't mess my knobs up because I've got all my settings where I want it.
Oh yeah, that's
over them.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. So yeah, I centered my business was really around that advanced trim paint line, the Aura Bath and Spa, or just regular Aura, but I did find that little sheen hack with the Bath and Spa, and it would end up really working out well for some of the touching up if necessary on some kind of new construction. An electrician comes in and bashes something or cuts an outlet wall. I thought that was a reasonable looking touch up at the end of the day. Didn't have to go corner to corner, but that absolutely is personal preference, and I'm not saying that's
working for you.
Yeah.
Other people have different things.
And then I really liked. I was a big believer, and this is hard for me to sell now that I'm a rep. Here's a little bit of crossover. I used to exclusively buy Benjamin Moore's ceiling paint. Used to be in a yellow can. Now it's in a purple can. If you work in a store, you call it premium waterborne ceiling paint. We call it 508, which is the SKU. That particular product has elite coverage, and you can tell that it is a high degree of solids content to it, and so in a lot of circumstances I was saving an additional coat. If you get and this is a little bit counterintuitive too, I would use sometimes up to a 3/8 inch roller cover for a ceiling and just dip a lot. I would use dipping to get a lot of product on, and that 3/8 roller cover would just level it right out like a steamroller on a road. I think a lot of people like to think about taking large roller covers, thinking added coverage or mileage. But if you get in the habit of just dipping extra and moving that paint around with a cover that's not going to pull paint back off the surface, I think a lot of painters will find some success with added coverage capability. 1/2 inch is not unreasonable for a ceiling, but if you really want to get, a nice roller cover on the ceiling, if you take the time and buy a nice roller cover and dip and really get yourself into a flow, that 508 ceiling paint can cover off with the white, can cover some decently off-white ceilings in one coat.
Yeah, it's great stuff. And it's completely flat, dead flat. No matter what color it's tinted to.
Yeah.
And that's huge on a ceiling because, I mean, with the light coming in, angles, the smallest little thing, if there's a little bit of sheen, and a true flat ceiling paint, in most situations, those, when they're tinted to certain colors, the colorant itself is going to give off
A little slight
bit of
sheen.
and that can be enough to see roller marks.
Yeah, critical lighting situations, right? And that product, I just didn't stray with, a lot of guys want to use, more cost-effective ceiling paint. And there are, I'm sure, places for that. But the kind of work that my business was doing, I like to develop a system and just get into it. Aura, waterborne ceiling paint, advance. That's my system. There's obviously jobs that called, if someone was on a budget or something like that, they have a rental, we can start to navigate to some of those lesser, not top of the line products. But that was kind of my system. And you prepare, you kind of pair the sundries with it. You experiment. Painting's kind of about testing and finding out what works for you, what works for your style, especially with brushes. Roller covers, there's so many, between the woven and the microfiber and then the micro plush and what's really happening.
Kind of a mixed bag there.
Yeah.
Just find what works for you.
Yeah.
Now, I know that shifting gears, we're almost at the end of things that I was going to ask you about, but you've got a real passion for raising money for Friedrich's
Ataxia.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit. I have no idea what it is. I did a little bit of research, but let other people know.
Yeah, so this actually goes back to that family that I did the kitchen cabinets for when they went to Florida right out of COVID. Those guys came home and I had an opportunity to meet their family, and they have two young girls. I think they're at the time they were probably 8 or 10 years old, Scarlett and Lila. And I, after talking with Carrie and Jeremy, they were homeowners, they're customers of mine. They end up being my friends. I kind of learn a little bit more. The girls have this Friedrich's Ataxia, and it's a genetic disorder that happens. It's something that is extra genetic code. And so we all have this genetic code, and our bodies all process this genetic code at a certain rate. And what happens with Friedrich's Ataxia is it has to be processed. Let's say we're processing a certain amount of times per hour. They're doing it 4,000 times more than that. So it just, I don't know exactly, but what it really ends up kind of causing is, just some muscular problems. They really have a hard time getting around. They've since, when I met them, I think they were using crutches or maybe even could walk, and now they are now in wheelchairs. But I've just really connected with them. Jeremy and Carrie were just such great people that we started to hang out socially, and I've got to just learn about them and care for them, and then their family. And so they host a lot of fundraising events for what is called Cure FA and Ride Ataxia. And it's essentially a program to use like a bike rides. Okay. Every summer they have several around the country, and you can go, and it's rideataxia.org, I think it is, or Cure FA. And you'll see a lot of it. This disease really affects boys and girls in their teens, the early teens. A lot of it diagnosed around 8-10 years old, and it's just a really cool cause. They're working on, I think the headquarters in Pennsylvania for this research facility, and they're really working on some of the genetic, really to find some kind of cure for this. So
no cure right now.
No cure right now. There are starting to be treatments, but I think you have to be above 18. So my particular Scarlett and Lila are not quite 18, so they're not approved for this treatment. And I think that it just stops any future development of the disease. Mm-hmm. And I think that just went live, I think maybe a year ago. And so the results are still kind of coming in, but there is starting to be some options, and we are starting to gain some ground. And Ride Ataxia, I think this year raised close to $300,000-$400,000.
So do you participate in those events?
Yeah, we go, and I go to Chicago for the last 2 years. I went to Chicago, and we do the Ride Ataxia Chicago. There's one in Florida, and there's one, I think, in Pennsylvania, where the headquarters is for this particular doctor. Sees a lot of these patients. A lot of the families are really close because it's pretty rare. So they all go to Pennsylvania. So there's a ride in Pennsylvania, ride in Florida, ride in Chicago. I go out to Chicago and spend the weekend, And my wife hasn't been able to make it out there with me yet just because of scheduling, but I think this year she'll probably go, bring some more friends, and it's a really good cause, and it's a really cool sense of community, and funny what one cabinet job can turn into, right?
It is. It's really interesting. We'll put links in the notes, the description of this video for the different sites, the different organizations.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
About.
Yeah.
People want to dig into it.
Absolutely.
Maybe donate, anything like that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, if you could go back, last question I've got for you, go back in time, give younger Chad, one single piece of advice about work, about life, pretty much anything. What would be that one piece of advice? Would it be something about the vases and all of that stuff falling on the ground, the pottery, maybe something?
I think in general, and I'm just now starting to kind of recover from this mindset, but a little more quality, a little less quantity. As we've kind of discussed today, am involved in a lot of things, and it took me into, I think, probably from 30, now I'm 35. These 5 years I realized that you can't do it all. And it used to kind of eat me alive. Fear, what do they say? FOMO, fear of missing out,
yeah.
Right? I'd want to be at a bowling tournament, and then I'd want to go, do karaoke, and then I want to go ice fishing, and then I got some work to do. I own my own business, and it's just, I just had to slow down a little bit and just kind of, and that's okay. And we can still get to those things, but it doesn't have to be. I don't have to, I can pick it up, put it down, pick it up whenever I'm ready.
It's not easy to do. It's not easy to break out of once you're into something.
Yeah, I know.
Develop those habits.
I know. I just like too much stuff.
You've got FOMO, fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out.
Utmo, I'm used to missing out.
Used to missing out, yeah. Trapped in this,
you get used to it after
this
a while.
abandoned building over here.
Yeah, I work in a warehouse, and every time I have somebody come over, they're a little bit surprised because it's a huge warehouse. It's a big building.
Yeah.
And I am the sole occupant of this building.
It's somewhat scary.
I've got so much freedom.
Yeah.
I walk around and I do so many silly, ridiculous things, and I don't even realize it. I shoot spider webs like Spider-Man without even thinking about it. When I go from my studio, my main recording studio, to the bathroom, which is near here.
Yeah.
And I'll walk through the building, I shoot spider webs. I have all kinds of fancy flights in my.
You ever get music going in here?
No, I've not done that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll have earbuds and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
No, I live the dream.
You gotta have a party.
I am the only person in my department. There's not a lot of fun that we're going to have. Any fun I can have here at a party, I'm having at home.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to let you get back to work. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, no problem. Pleasure.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel, ring the notification bell. You know how it works. All those things, that really helps us out. If you have comments, questions, basically, anything, somebody that we should interview on a future episode, any thoughts at all, throw those in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you're thinking. All right. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.